And I think we're live. Checking my signal strength. Looks good. Looks like everything's lined up here. Welcome, everybody, to a Comic Tropes live stream. We've got my cat Chibi meowing plenty in the background. Hey, do you want to come over here and be on camera? I think she does. So, I've been live streaming every day of October doing the Inktober challenge. And today's prompt was Ghost. Made me think of Ghostface from the Scream movies. So I've been sketching away, and I'm going to use this time to do my inking, work on some techniques, and hopefully answer some interesting questions or tell some good stories. Let's see, we've got some folks in the chat room. Hello to Brendan. Hello to Compared. Hello Blue World Comics, who says 1 a.m. Ooh, that is late. Thank you for stopping by, even if it's only for a little while. Spotted Blacks, you got it, Brendan. We're going to do a lot of black today. Hello, Beowulf. You definitely made it. Hello, Iron Shell. Yeah, long day. Hello, Ren Arte. Hello, Journalism. Marvel's Ghost. Oh, yeah, could have been, I guess. Hello, Watchful and Harmonious subscriber. And hello, Elmer. So a bunch of people jumping in. Nice to see all of you. Appreciate it. Feel free to ask any questions. Maybe we'll get some conversation started. I'm just sort of patting my cat Chibi, who really wanted attention right when I started. Are you okay to hang out on your own? Maybe hang out with Milo a little bit? Alright. We're going to put you up here. Ready? Now, how about in this bed? Anyway, so, hello, Axel. And today has been a good day. I am exhausted. It's been a long day, but it's been a good day. On a normal day that's good, I sell a car, you know? That's a good day. To sell a car, that's a good day. That's what I aim to do. On a very good day, sell 2 cars, you know? Today I sold 3. So I worked real hard today. So anyway, which cat is that? That was Chibi that I was holding. Hello, Texas Grizzly. And back here, I've got Milo right here. Hat trick, exactly right. When you sell 3, that's called a hat trick. I've never met Howard Chaykin. No. I'd be interested in it. There's a lot of his stuff that I've admired and appreciated. So I'm going to try to use my arm as much as possible for some of these gentle strokes. Good. I think we're good there. Anyway, 3 cars. 3 cars. 3 cars to 3 separate people. Almost sold 4 today. I got all the way to the very end selling a 4th car today, but my customer did not have on him the down payment that he wanted. My cat is really meowing loud. Chibi, do you need something? I think she just wants attention. She just meows a lot. So I sold it. I got all the way to the very end. We ran financing, locked in his offer. He was happy with it. He wanted the car. He just doesn't have his down payment. Needs till tomorrow. No problem. That's cool. But literally, he's just going to come in with that down payment, and then we go to signing. So I was so close. I was so close to selling 4 in one day. For me, that's very, very good. Anyway, you don't hear her. She's just down the hall around the corner. She's sort of still just meowing, and I just worry that, like, you know, I don't know, I just worry too much. You don't hear that? Thanks, Sigmigs. Hello, Jeff. I had 5 in one day once, bell to bell, busy from the word go. Yeah, this was, like, you know, I didn't have to stay late. I just had a late scheduled day. So that was just in my normal amount of time. But 3 in one day is always good. Better than good. That's really good, you know? So I feel good, you know, on a day like that. Because I don't just make money by showing in and punching the clock hours to hours. I only really make money if I sell cars. So it's obviously, like, really important to me to do so. And that's what I did today. It is a tough job, but it's paying the bills. It is definitely not the kind of job I ever would have guessed I'd see myself in. I don't think anyone would have guessed it for me. But anyway. You do hear it, Axel? Yeah, she's quieted down now for a minute, but she may do it a little bit more. Does your manager give that hat track bonuses? No, we don't get a bonus or anything. Just sort of like it might get like maybe like the store manager might go, "Good job." That's about it. But I'm happy about it. GB, if you want anything, I'm right down here, not at the other end of the hall. I know it sounds weird, me talking to my cat like that and all. Obviously, she doesn't understand the words I'm saying, but I do sort of feel like they understand a little bit of the gist emotionally out of sort of how you talk to them. Maybe I'm cuckoo. What kind of cars were they? Geez, they all blend together a little bit. What were they? Sold, the last one was a Toyota Highlander. What else did I sell today? This is all merging together. A Mazda 3, a Toyota Highlander, and a Mazda 3, and what was the other one? An Audi A4. An Audi A4. Which Ghostface is this supposed to be? While I won't tell, there are incredibly subtle clues. Now I'll tell. It's Mickey from number 2. I won't tell. Of course I'll tell. And the next 2 days are my days off, so my goal is to live stream much earlier in the day for both Wednesday and Thursday. Hopefully that works for a bunch of people. We shall see. Might get some new faces in there at earlier hours. That would be fun. See, finished Transformers G1 Season 1 today. Aged very well in my opinion. There was plenty of fun animation errors though. Just wait until Season 2, but especially Season 3. There's more and more animation errors as it goes on. Yeah, I agree with you, Brendan. It's how you say something, and they sort of get that a little bit, I think. Cats understand when you talk to them. I think that they do a little bit. I don't think that they know words at all, but I think that they do understand sort of like the inflection that you give them. If I sort of say like, come here, in a nice way, they do come here most of the time. And cats aren't as obedient as dogs, but if you say that, they do tend to come to you. It's nice. Hello, Josh. Hello, James. Hello, Mike. Bunch of people jumping in. What's one thing you feel you need to work on artistically? Well, since I'm focusing on Inktober, I would just say that my feathering, like sort of transitioning out of the blacks into like a white. I think that my feathering could use work. But there's a lot of areas that I could use work. We'll see. Slowly but surely, making little improvements and feeling more confident about the decisions made. I don't work currently, but I'm thinking of selling part of my Star Wars action figure collection on eBay. I hope to get a lot because I paid tons for them. I don't know, man. When I moved, I gave away all my Star Wars figures. I couldn't find a buyer for them. But maybe things have changed in the last 6 years. You know, now we've got more movies, so maybe. I ended up giving them all away. Like, since they weren't selling, I gave away like you know, probably a couple hundred Star Wars action figures to a friend who just had a kid, and I was like, yeah, when they grow up, let them play with all these. Then they'll at least get loved, and I was cool with that. Have I ever heard of Draw a Box? No, I haven't, Michael. I don't know what that is. Yes, maybe Star Wars is a hot item right now. I'm definitely getting excited for the next movie. I am. I like Star Wars. Having money is often better than collectibles in life. Well, you need money to just survive, don't you? You need a roof over your head, you need food, you need clothes, you need all those things before you can indulge in just sort of the fun stuff. That's for sure. Let's see. Drawbox is a free online course. You take at your own pace. It's for beginners and also people like me who stopped drawing or were totally self-taught. Oh, okay. Well, maybe I could benefit from something like that. Just watched your New York Comic-Con post today. It looked like you and Chrissy had a great time. I did. Thanks, Watchful and Harmonious subscriber. And I see your question, Blue World Comics. I'll get to that in a second. So I did have a great time, and just so that everybody knows, I made a small bonus video. I took some video and a lot of photos at New York Comic Con and uploaded a video of that today to my YouTube page, so that maybe like those of you who couldn't make it this year or have never seen what New York Comic Con is like, can give you an idea of what that's like. And I did make a previous video about sort of what you see at every Comic-Con and sort of counted up things, made a game out of it like one year, like 2 years ago, I think I made that video at New York Comic-Con. So I've got another video, but this one is really just taking pictures of the cosplay, the pavilions, the artists, the crowds, the toys, the comics. Hopefully it gets some of the fun across and some of the chaos. It's very hard to get the amount of people, the congestion across. I'm not sure if I did that, but yeah, it was a blast. I love it there. And then let's see. Blue World Comics is going to stick around 15 minutes. Got to work tomorrow. Totally understand that. When did I sneak off to Comic-Con? That was like 2 weeks ago. Let's see. Hero Journalism, thank you so much for the super chat. Says, what do you think is the most controversial position you've ever taken in any of your videos or other comic journalism? A controversial position I've taken? You know, not setting out to be controversial. I do set out to be honest with my opinions. So the controversy only really emerges, I suppose, when I either feel very differently about something than maybe the general public does, or somehow my politics get involved a little. I would say that, like, controversial is just sort of maybe something like, you know, where I discuss guys like Cerebus or Rob Liefeld, who definitely are talented, but they're not necessarily my favorite. Like, maybe I'm not presenting him in the best light. So, you know, some people get mad at me for that. I guess that's sort of controversial. Let's see. I sound like an ad. That's okay. When did you notice your first big gain in subscribers? I don't know. That goes, you know, big gains at first. You notice things in a much more different light than like later. Like, you know, like I didn't really start gaining consistently until about a year ago. So for the first 2 years, you know, just going from like 20 subscribers to like 500 subscribers felt like a big deal. Going from 500 subscribers to 2,000 subscribers felt like a big deal. It's slow going in that in those early years, basically, unless somehow you have a video that magically resonates with everybody really fast. So in those early years, one thing that like did help was just sort of getting promoted by other existing talent, and like Harry Partridge, who does some popular animations on YouTube as well as a few other places, started sort of mentioning me to some of his followers. You know, 2 years ago or so, he liked a particular video, and I did sort of notice an uptick in my subscriber count when he did that. So that was pretty exciting. I noticed a bit of a subscriber uptick when I got promoted by Hooded Cobra Commander 788, who does like GI Joe videos, but like, you know, liked my channel, and at the time he definitely had a bigger subscriber base. So, you know, just like little things like that in the early days. Godzilla Mendoza was another guy that like sort of promoted me pretty early on. So like, yeah, I would say that those are three guys that like all helped me grow in those early years. Hooded Cobra Commander 788, Godzilla Mendoza, and Harry Partridge were three people that all very kindly just seemed to enjoy my show and promoted it to their followers, and I think all of that helped. Haven't really connected with anyone that's like, you know, like a really huge big name in the last like year or so. Like, instead, I mean, I'm trying to pay it forward here and there, certainly on social media, but yeah, hopefully the channel continues to grow. I mean, it is growing. It's just hopefully it really grows someday. That would be awesome. We'll see. Ever read the comic for the game Doom? I have. I've actually read that comic back in the day. It was terrible, but kind of funny terrible. I remember the line I remember the most was like this. I forget what the name even of the main sort of guy is, but I'll call him like the Space Marine. He like takes some sort of like energy to like get invincible, and he yells at a demon. He goes, "You are big. That means you have big guts." That really made me laugh. I was like, that is an awkward but memorable line. You are big. That means you have big guts. And then he just like attacks a demon. I don't know if that actually became a meme or not, but I definitely remember that from like well before memes were really a thing. The channel has definitely evolved. It's less about tropes now. Yeah, you know, sometimes I don't love what I named the channel, because like I was following techniques and I just needed like a name, and it was like I didn't like give it as much thought as maybe I should have. Like, I probably could have come up with a more, I don't want to say generic, but like all-encompassing type of name. And all I can say is like the kind of show I always wanted to do certainly involves covering the techniques that various artists and writers and other creators utilize. And I believe the term is accurate to call them their personal tropes. Like, you know, like, it's not like they're using always existing storytelling tropes so much as, you know, Chris Claremont has certain sort of catchphrases that he has his X-Men say all the time. So those are his personal tropes. So it was very accurate, I think, for my first video. And then I just, like, felt very beholden to using that. But as time went on, I was like, there's more I want to do with the channel. And I'd rather just create interesting comic book related content talking about techniques and stuff and be a little less beholden to the idea of presenting them always as tropes and saying that word. But I am fascinated with things like story structure and themes and stuff like that. So, you know, I do traffic in those terms in real life, talking about tropes and stuff. Don't ever change the name. I mean, I don't think I want to change the name now. Let's see. Which comic creators do you feel are underappreciated or underrecognized? There are so many. I wouldn't know where to begin. I wouldn't know where to begin. Wasn't it named Skunk Ape? The channel technically is like, you know, when I just created a YouTube account, which was years before I ever thought of doing a show myself, I just used the name Skunk Ape because it's like a term that's always amused me. You know, the show itself, I always considered comic tropes, and then at a certain point I was like, oh, why do I have the channel named something different than like what, you know, the main content is? So I just, you're allowed to get sort of a vanity name, a vanity URL in it, and I was just like, yeah, it's comic tropes. So I brand everything comic tropes, but technically it's under like the domain name or whatever you'd want to call it, Skunk Ape. Do I have an original created character that you can talk about? Yeah, I've got a bunch. Maybe I can sketch something like that someday. That wouldn't be bad. Once Inktober ends, my goal is, you know, same as what my goal has been in the past, which is to try to do, you know, a live stream maybe like once a week, like basically on one of my days off, just like, you know, take some time in the afternoon, just draw something, and mostly that's an excuse to hang out with all of you and answer some questions. I've never seen your TV tropes page, but I'm sure you have one. Oh, I've never tried to look. I don't know. I love TV tropes, and as I'm sure everyone's aware, they don't focus solely on tropes. No, it's recurring motifs. You know, I could have called it like, you know, comic book themes or, you know, comic motifs, something like that, comic book techniques. None of that really rolled off the tongue at the time, but yeah. No, I don't think I would do a webcomic about superheroes, Marcos. I would probably do something that's either crime or sci-fi. Just, and I do like superheroes, but I would probably make it about one of those topics. Those are the type, or horror. Those are some of the things that interest me a little bit more. You know, someone actually asked me today, like, if you could write for an existing superhero, who would it be? And in the past, like, you know, I've thought of characters like Spider-Man and Batman are characters that I love and would enjoy writing for at least once. But today, all of a sudden, I realized that I think I'd enjoy this even more is the opportunity to work on Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. That was just a comic that really resonated with me throughout the mid to late 80s. And I still just really like the Ninja Turtles as a concept. Not every iteration is my favorite, but overall I just really, really like it. And I feel like I could do a good job coming up with some new stuff for Ninja Turtles. So, I don't know. That would be something I'd really, really enjoy. Have I ever watched Final Space? No, I don't know what Final Space is, Gerald, excuse me. Hello, Jordan. See you, Blue World. Appreciate you jumping in, especially so late. Mike L likes Final Space. It's kind of impossible now to come up with an original superhero character? No. Maybe it's impossible to come up with an original superpower. Maybe. But, people are always coming up with characters. And you base characters off of people you know in real life. And, at the end of the day, there's only so many true motivations. When you really break it down, it's for something like respect or power or love. So these are some of the things that people want. And they go after it in different ways. I don't think anybody necessarily thinks, I want justice. That's not exactly a realistic beat. Like, if you found, like, a fantastic lawyer out there or something, that worked for the city or something, they're not saying, the thing that makes me passionate is justice. It's instead like, I want, to make the world a safer place or a kinder place because I experienced XYZ. So coming up with an original superhero is absolutely still doable. I think it's just a matter of, like, you first understanding what the character is that you're creating and what do they want. What does your character want? If they force you to work on the Bay Turtles, Chris, if they forced me to, it'd still be the Ninja Turtles, and I'm sure I could, like, come up with something cool there. I didn't love the last two live action movies, but the second one was definitely more entertaining than the first. I just didn't like the design of the turtles. They were more like the Teenage Mutant Ninja Tanks, or the Teenage Mutant Tank Turtles, maybe, because they were just so big and invulnerable. And to me, the Ninja Turtles are a little smaller. They're not necessarily even as tall as, like, an adult man. They might be a little shorter than that. And they've got to be fast. They're ninjas. They are ninjas. The irony is they came from turtles. Turtles are slow. That's the joke. But turtles as, like, big, huge brawlers didn't really speak to me. But I'm sure that, it's still the Ninja Turtles. I would still love a crack at them, even if that was the iteration that I was presented with. I think that I could do something with it. And, who knows? Maybe they get hit by Baxter Stockman's ray and they change their look just a little bit. At least get rid of some of those noses. A Donatello miniseries, I'd be all over that, man. That's one of my few collections, as I've got tons of Donatellos. I've made a video before, but even if I just lean back, now you can barely see it, but right there is a Ninja Turtles tabletop game, and then right here is a 12-foot tall classic Ninja Turtles from Mondo. And that's so I love the Ninja Turtles, man. They are among my favorites. The guy that played Raphael in the recent live-action movies, a guy named Alan Richson, was somebody that I had interviewed back in the day on my old podcast. And I don't remember how we hit it off now, because this would be going back, at least 10 years, maybe a little more. But we did hit it off, and we ended up exchanging PlayStation gamer tags, and we used to play Call of Duty together for a while. It was nice. I haven't talked to that guy in any fashion for many, many years, but he was a really nice guy, and I thought he did do a good job playing Raphael. I think that, honestly, like, out of the four turtles in those Bay movies, Raphael definitely came across the best. That's my sincere opinion. Whoa, let's see. Super chat here from Iftikhar Ahmed. Thank you. Would I consider doing an episode covering cross-gen comics? They have an amazing backlog of stories and an interesting corporate history with Disney and Marvel. Yes, I would definitely like to do that. I thought it was very fascinating how they attempted to create it as like a 9 to 5 job. It was a really interesting idea, and with actual offices, and people would like punch in and work there on the premises. That was an interesting idea. I don't know that it actually like worked quite like they thought that it would, but I do think that it was an interesting idea. They definitely developed some new talent, and it would make a really good topic. Yeah. Do I have a favorite animated music video? Pearl Jam song "Do the Evolution" came on. Okay. A favorite animated one. I'm not sure that I could necessarily think of off the top of my head. Oh, well, "Take on Me." Yeah, I really love that song, "Take on Me," and I really like that "Take on Me" sort of has a comic book theme to the music video. So yeah, I would say that one. Yeah, I'm trying a couple different things with like some of the line work that I'm using here. I'm just testing. I've got a lot of dead pens, and I'm just confirming. I'm creating a pile here of ones that I'm just like gonna throw out. And tomorrow, since I've got it off, I can go. Oh, ha! I didn't even realize I had this one. It's barely used. A nice big bold one. This is exactly what I should be using for most of these black areas, and then I can fill it in with mediums and fines as I get closer to the line art. Ha! I didn't even know that I had this one. Ridiculous. There have been people in the chat going like, "Why don't you have a nice big thick brush?" And I'm just like, "Oh, I should." Oh, I did get myself one, and then I forgot. You take bold positions. What video got the most criticism? Maybe my video on Ultimatum, because to me, like, I didn't think that worked very well. I thought it was very like sort of negative and mean-spirited, like in a way. It just like I didn't think that storyline was very effective. I thought it felt like just very corporate dictated, like, hey, we want to shut down a bunch of comics, so kill off a bunch of characters. But a lot of people were like, no, man, this is badass. Like, you totally missed the point. So, I don't think I missed the point, but some people think I did, and, it is what it is. I thought everyone hated Ultimatum. Nah, read some of the comments if you're curious. Like, plenty of people really thought that like Ultimatum was good and badass. And then there's a bunch of people that like, as far as controversial, I don't think I've got that much. Like, I don't think that anyone like outright like hates my positions. Like, I don't think I've gotten too much of that, but people will say like that I'm like crazy for liking a character like I don't know, Captain Marvel or something. That one actually, I don't know that I've necessarily ever presented myself as a huge fan. I just don't hate Captain Marvel in any way. But characters like that, like some people are like mad at me for liking those characters. The more I think about it, the more I think it's just like people that like. I think it's like my only controversial stuff is like that I like in general Marvel, and like a lot of people are like really dislike Marvel comics. And to that, I'm just like, well, no problem. You don't have to like it. I'm definitely not. No skin off my nose. You don't have to buy anything that you don't want to. The Eaters by Peter Milligan? No, I haven't read that, but generally I like Peter Milligan, so that does sound cool to see a horror comic by him. The Eaters, huh? I'll keep it in mind. I'm pretty excited. Milligan and Allred are reteaming to bring back Ecstatics, which only they can do. That is a comic by them that's for them. Not sure why people would dislike Marvel. Well, you know, you don't have to like everything by them. Yeah. Wow, Tim Roth is in here, folks. That's pretty cool. Loved you in The Incredible Hulk, man. Favorite horror movie? Somewhere, depending on the day, it could be Jaws, The Shining, or Evil Dead 2. Depending on the day. Have you ever read the Batman comic where Batman transforms into a saw? Oh, maybe. Was it from the 1950s? Phantasm? Phantasm's amusing, but I wouldn't call myself a fan. But I'm the kind of guy that will like literally watch pretty much any movie. Especially when it comes to horror. As long as I've got the time, like I'm always down for a movie. But also, if like a friend really recommends like a novel or something and hands me a copy, I'm like, oh, okay. You know, it's almost any type of like, you know, story. If somebody recommends it and it's made easily accessible, I'm down. I'll give that a shot. What's up with doing these late this year? My work schedule. Just my work schedule. Work a lot of days until 9, and then like, you know, gotta get home, gotta have dinner. So just doing these the soonest I can. Just yeah, otherwise I'd have to be getting up like real early and doing them real early, and I just hate the idea of drawing it, but like sort of checking the clock constantly for like, oh, do I have to leave for work? Do I have to leave for work now? I just don't really want to feel like that, so I'd rather do it at the end of the day when I have as much time as I want. I wish I could do it during like a schedule that works for everybody else so that, you know, I could have a bigger audience, but that's just not realistic. And the main reason I'm live streaming it is to just sort of keep myself honest and like just keep doing them. But the secondary benefit is an opportunity to chat with people that like watch my show, because that's a real privilege for me. I'm very grateful that most, if not all of you, are watching Comic Tropes. That means a lot to me. So if I can like chat with people and answer some questions about what I like or why I'm doing the show, anything like that, then that holds a lot of value for me. Oh, thanks, Iron Shell. I appreciate that. Yeah, wait, Robot Monster, James? Are you talking about the one by Rob Schraub? Oh, no, wait, that's Robot Bastard, isn't it? Is it? Yeah. What is Robot Monster? You'll have to... I'm thinking of something else. I'm an insomniac. This schedule works for me. Well, that's nice, Captain Negativity. You're not that negative. Yeah, Scream 4 is pretty close to that idea. No, no, no. I mean, it's a family relative that... I know Rob Schraub did Scud the Disposable Assassin, but he also made like a movie, and I guess it was called Robot Bastard. I don't know Folly and Flytrap. Sorry. What's my favorite horror comic? Well, I think I just revealed it in the latest episode. I'm pretty sure I'd have to say Lock and Key. I won't even equivocate. Yeah, it's Lock and Key. That's my personal favorite. After that, I think Hellboy does generally count, and I would say Hellboy after that. Oh, Robot Monster was Ed Wood. Oh, right, right. Yeah. Right. Now I know what you're talking about. I was thinking of yeah, the one by Rob Schraub is called Robot Bastard, and it's like a cool sort of sci-fi action movie, like made like with basically no money. It's interesting. Do I have a favorite Ghost Rider? Um, if I'm being honest, it might be Dan Ketch. But there have been a lot of great Johnny Blaze stories, and I haven't read too much Robbie Reyes. Um, but the little that I have makes him pretty cool, and I like that he's got a car instead of a motorcycle, just to be a little different there. And I guess the reason I like Dan Ketch a little bit more was I felt like, at least in his first couple of years of having his own comic, he had a little bit more clear direction of where the story was going. Whereas the initial Johnny Blaze stories sort of felt like they never really had thought too far ahead and were like, oh, this took off a little, let's just keep it going. Like, the devil just changes his look quite a bit. His powers aren't super well defined for the first several issues. Um, the artists were like getting swapped in and out. So it developed into some cool stuff, but the early issues of Ghost Rider are kind of like all over the place. You're just like, wait, what is this supposed to be? And also, it's just sort of weird, the idea of him only becoming the Ghost Rider at night. I was just like, well, what's with this night thing? Why can't he just either be it whenever he wants, or, at least the Dan Ketch one would like activate whenever like innocent blood had been spilled? And I was like, that sounds like it makes sense. More so than just it's night. A Scud cartoon would rock. That's a pretty cool idea. Gary Friedrich. No, I guess I don't really, if I'm being honest, like have any strong opinions on Gary Friedrich. If I was going to do an episode on him, I'd have to do some more research. I don't have any big opinions off the top of my head on him. A definitive Ghost Rider run? That's really hard to say. See you, Michael. A definitive run. There've been interesting runs. You know, the initial run is interesting. The Dan Ketch run is interesting. The, you know, I don't think that you could say that there's been a definitive run. The Jason Aaron run was interesting, but they're still trying to figure that character out most of the time. Yeah, I'll definitely do a video on Sam Keith's Max series, definitely. Gerald, what he's talking about is cartoonist kayfabe. I like that channel, personally. Far left field. What's my favorite 80s sitcom song? Oh, I do have one. I don't know why, but I really like the theme to Hogan Family. It feels very 80s to me, but it's like almost got a sadness to it, but it's all like happy, but there's something sad in it too that I just kind of like. Life is such a sweet insanity. The more you learn, the less you know. In the heart of every family, there's a something waiting there for you. I don't know how it goes exactly. Perfect Strangers is another one. I never have seen Perfect Strangers, for the record. I've just never happened to see that one. But like, I love how over the top that one is. Like, standing tall on the wings of my dreams. Greatest American Hero I wasn't going to count because it has sitcom, and Greatest American Hero was an hour-long adventure. Now, it was funny, but it was not a sitcom. I was a big fan of Greatest American Hero when I was a little kid, but I didn't actually see that much of it. I can still remember, though, like this one time I was a little kid and I was excited because they said tonight, you know, the Greatest American Hero and Bill will finally meet the aliens that created the suit. They're finally going to see what they look like. And it was going to be a big episode. I was like, oh my God. And for whatever reason that night, like, just as we're about to get on it, like, my parents come in and they're like, come on, we're going out. And I'm like, at this hour? Like, where are we going? They're like, we're going to get you a bike. I was like, what? And they were like, yeah, we found, like, you know, like a used bike, like somehow. Who knows how they found things like that before the internet. And they were just like, we're going to get a bike, but we need to make sure, you know, it's like the right size for you and everything. And I was like, so conflicted. It was going to be my first bicycle. I was really young. And I was like, I love the idea of getting a bike, but I really wanted to see the Greatest American Hero. Now, you have to keep in mind, we didn't even have a VCR, let alone, like, you know, streaming or anything like that. So it's like, if I wasn't going to catch it that night, I was never going to see it. I decided to go get the bike, and I've always still been curious about that episode, like exactly like what went down, if it was as big as the commercials indicated. Um, it was a different time. The Fall Guy, yeah. Gerald says he worked on a cartoon pilot about 2 years ago. That sounds fun. Mobility is not as good as TV? I don't know. I don't think I'd agree. I was pretty excited to get a bicycle. I've read a little of Fist of the North Star, but not the whole thing or anything. It was interesting. I mean, I think it's less about the story and more about, like, the art and the idea. That was what I got out of it anyway. Life is such a sweet insanity. The more you learn, the less you know. I watched this video get demonetized because I sang it too perfect. In the heart of every family. Seriously, take a minute, since you're on YouTube, open another window and, like, look up Hogan Family theme song. Early Jason Bateman show. He became, like, the star of that show, basically. That's what made his career before there was ever any Arrested Development or anything else. So he was the star of that. I have heard of Hajime no Ippo, but I don't know it. I haven't read it. I've just heard that title. Grobbler Baki, I don't think I've heard of. So, yeah. Through the years. Any thoughts on the Bloodshot trailer? Yeah, I saw that today. I was definitely surprised at first. I was like, oh, they didn't make him look like Bloodshot. They didn't bother with, like, you know, the costume, seemingly. He's just Vin Diesel with Bloodshot's story and powers. But you know what? It actually didn't bother me that much. I was kind of like, yeah, see, and I saw a lot of, like, negativity towards it. And I was kind of like, I might be in. I don't know. I don't know. I'm gonna wait and see. Like, I'd like to get a stronger idea of, you know, like, who's in it and exactly what it's about. But I didn't mind it much. I didn't seem to mind it as much as some of the other people. At the same time, I'm like, why would you do Bloodshot and not make him look like Bloodshot? I don't quite get that. But it didn't bother me that much. I don't know. I guess I like Vin Diesel most of the time. And he's made kind of some bad movies, but he's also made some that I really like. I generally like the Fast and Furious movies. Por ejemplo. Hi, cat. Meow. Meow. Yeah, the thing about Valiant is I do think that they have some really interesting characters, and the way I would approach it would be, honestly, so we've already got a lot of famous, overt superheroes with Marvel and DC, right? But a lot of the Valiant characters are a little more sci-fi or occasionally sort of a little bit mythological. But, like, so what it might be interesting is to try to, like, ground everything a little bit more and actually, like, base it a little bit more in reality. So I guess that's why it didn't bother me that, like, Vin Diesel was just a soldier that happens to look like Vin Diesel. I was like, well, maybe that might be a way to go that makes it a little different. is grounding it a little bit more, but I don't know if that's what they're doing. I was just saying that could be an interesting idea. Yeah. At least it has a Johnny Cash song. Exactly. That will hook my interest pretty fast. I do love Johnny Cash, so I was like, oh, cool, Johnny Cash. Then they sort of like keep it on repeat, and I was like, all right, I get it. Moving on. I'm not saying it's going to be a good movie. I was just like, all right, this seems at least a little different than what I was initially expecting, and that might be a good thing. Just because comic book movies could be very predictable, could be. We've read the story, but I like an adaptation that sometimes moves things around a little, just so that I can get a little bit of a different experience. Jason David Frank played a much better version of Bloodshot. Well, he looked more like Bloodshot, but I'll be honest, he's not much of an actor, Jason David Frank. Even though Vin Diesel does some big dumb action movies, he's also done some good drama. I mean, Saving Private Ryan or Boiler Room, you're like, oh yeah, Vin Diesel can act. So I think that I'd rather have somebody that like that playing the role than a guy that can do a bunch of kicks. And I'm not trying to actually maybe that was a little too demeaning. I didn't mean to totally demean it. But I saw that web video and I was kind of disappointed because it all ended up feeling kind of cheap to me. I wanted it to be a little better than it was. Such a complainer, aren't I? Exo Manowar could look really amazing. You could do a lot of interesting things with how they do that. If you could pick a comic character who hasn't been in a movie yet, who would it be? Huh. Who hasn't been in a movie yet? Maybe Moon Knight. Moon Knight has some potential. Who hasn't been in a movie? The Flash hasn't been in a movie. Well, no, he was in a movie. He was in the Justice League. Sorry, I forgot. Who? The Question could be interesting. I know he's getting a TV show, but Moon Knight hasn't been in a movie, and they just asked if I could put it in a movie since it hasn't come out yet. For superheroes, and maybe Exo Manowar, Invincible. Invincible could be a cool movie. Yeah, Invincible. Now, they're not making a Moon Knight movie. They're making a Moon Knight TV show, but it is through the Marvel Studios division, so could be good. Let's add some color to this whole thing. I need to see if this is skin tone color, and I'm looking for a scrap of paper or something like that. No, that's too paint. That's too orange. Favorite movie does not have to be a comic movie. Oh, that's hard though. It's hard. Do I have a favorite movie? I mean, I've got a lot of movies that I like. It's hard to put one in first place. It's almost like if I could pick it by genre, then I could sort of pick a favorite within that genre. You know? So for an action movie or something, I'd pick Raiders of the Lost Ark. No, even though I love Raiders of the Lost Ark, I'd probably pick RoboCop. Well, that's sci-fi, so I'll put RoboCop there. RoboCop, Raiders of the Lost Ark, Back to the Future, Empire Strikes Back, Drunken Master 2, Good, Bad, and the Ugly. Yeah, that would be up there. E11 and E13. Let me see. I thought I had those, but I seem to be missing some of my colors. And then for some reason in my Copics, I've also got a few Lego pieces like this hot dog. Why do I have a Lego hot dog in there? I don't know. Wait, E11 and E13? Got E13. Might be a little too dark though for what I'm thinking. It's not bad, but I think I need like more of an E11 for what I'm thinking of. Don't think I've got it. I'm definitely missing some colors. Darn. Alright. Different idea. I'm gonna grayscale this. Put the Lego in the bag. Chrissy stole my colors. She gave me all these colors. I don't think she stole any of them. It's not her style. She's a pretty honest person. What's the best Spider-Man run? Best is still probably, you know, like Stan Lee and Steve Ditko, for like, because they created him as the iconic character that he is. But another really good is like David Michelinie is the writer. He no, wait, I'm not talking about David Michelinie. I'm sorry. I'm talking about J.M. DeMatteis. J.M. DeMatteis. How did I and Chrissy meet? Oh, that's kind of related to comics, actually. So when I was in D.C., I met up with a bunch of other dudes that were, and ladies, excuse me, not just dudes, that were interested in comic books. All sorts of stuff, like guys that were like interested in like, you know, art and writing, etc., like mainstream, indie, all sorts of stuff. We would meet once a month at this bar, and we would have drinks, talk comics, and we would collaborate. We would do like we would all like draw together, and we would self-publish like print runs of anthologies and stuff that we'd all do stories in. And it was great. It was great. And the group definitely was successful. You know, we printed a bunch of stuff. We would table together sometimes at conventions. And one thing we did was we started having sort of our own, well, essentially convention. We called it the Counterculture Festival. And we'd hold that once a year. And we would have, in addition to like us, the artists, we would have vendors of all sorts of arts and crafts and other art. We'd have like live tattooing there. We'd have all sorts of, if you made something creative, you know, you could get table space. And then we would hire entertainment for like, as the evening began, we had things like sideshow freaks, we had comedians, and we had bands. And we hired this one band called American Sinner, and that was Chrissy's band. She was in it, and she thought that our group sounded interesting, so she came to a meeting before the Counterculture Festival, and she and I just really hit it off. So I had helped form the group, and I had helped run the Counterculture Festival, and so I sort of created my own opportunity there. I created an environment where like creative people were getting together, and I met a fellow super creative person that I really fell for. And now we've been together like about 13 years. So it's pretty awesome. I'm pretty happy. I would say she's the best part of my life overall. She makes me want to be better. J.M. DeMatteis' story from the early 90s about Harry Osborn going crazy that ran for quite a bit is one of the best Spider-Man stories I ever read. Totally agree. And DeMatteis was when there was like Craven's Last Hunt, which is a personal favorite. There's a lot of great stuff that he did. He was the writer, you know, like with all the big, you know, like, you know, McFarlane and Larson and Bagley. So he did a lot. Any character who I would like to cosplay at a Comic-Con? And who do you think Chrissy would like to be? I have no idea who she'd like to be. I don't think she'd really want to cosplay personally. I don't think so. But, who would I want to be? You know, I've thought about that a little, and I haven't cosplayed because I'm, like, not too sure, like, who I look like. I mean, other than, obviously, if you look at me, you're like, oh, that guy's a spitting image for Chris Hemsworth, you know? Like, why doesn't he just take over the role of Thor? And I'm like, you know what? Because this one Chris can't have all the luck. Like, we got to spread it around to some of the other Chris's that aren't as fortunate as me. No, I don't know. I don't know who I could, like, really pass myself off as far as a character goes. It's an interesting idea, but I just don't have a great idea. How many comics did you do together with the DC group? Oh, a ton. I mean, we started off just doing something called an exquisite corpse, where somebody would do 2 pages or maybe 4 pages and then hand it off to the next person, and they would just sort of pick it up and take the story where they wanted to go that made sense. And we did like about 3 or 4 of those, and then we as like sort of books that we put together and printed and sold. But like then we started doing anthologies, like a themed anthology. So there were anthologies like war, romance, horror, sci-fi. I know we did at least those 4, and those would be about like 80 to 100 pages, made of like, you know, maybe like 8 to 10 stories, something along those lines. We did a bunch of those, in other words, and that was fun. So we did all those, and then they still publish a newspaper full of comic strips, and they just they get ads to pay for the publishing costs. They do that like about once a month, I think, and they hand them out at, like, you know, they give them to bus stops and subway stops throughout DC. The best Daredevil costume from the Netflix show, probably the season 2, like red and black suit. I like that one. I'm very productive. How do you motivate myself? By making it not about me, by making it like, you know, something where I'm accountable to others. You know, I started Comic Tropes to fight depression because I had just been laid off from a job that I liked. And not fired, laid off. They like downsized. And that was depressing to me because I would have liked to have stayed there. And I was like, well, I might have extra time on my hands until I line up my next job. And even if I don't, like, I think I should have a personal project. And if it was just drawing, you know, who's to say that I would, like, stay with it if one day I felt tired? But if I created a show where there was, like, an audience, like, you know, sort of expecting something, I can't let others down. It's not in me. It legit, it's almost a character flaw. And I'm not kidding. Like I don't want to let others down. And I will produce something to the best of my ability to not let others down. Sometimes to the detriment of my own, like, you know, like need for, say, rest or something. That's been the case since I've been, you know, working. since I was a kid. So anyway, but I needed a project, and so I created Comic Tropes, and to a large degree it has helped me fight my depression. So yeah. Did I ever do any covers for the comics? I did do the cover for the horror comic that we all made today. Together. I started working on my novel to deal with my depression and write about the nightmares I've been having. It's been very therapeutic. Yeah, I can totally understand that, Gerald. I really can. Yeah. Depression is tough. But having this project keeps me from going too far down for the most part. When I first got laid off, I did try to kill myself once, and then I tried a second time while Comic Tropes was going. But I kept it pretty much a secret, and you know, I've talked about it a little in like a live stream once or twice, and I've just tried to stay busy, and for the most part it's working. For the most part it's working pretty well. Yeah, I played the old Marvel fighting games like Marvel vs. Capcom with my friends a few times. I don't think I ever owned any of them, but I think I played with my friends quite a bit. What did I think of the Hellraiser movies? I like the first one. After that, I don't really like any of them. Glad you're still here, Comic Tropians. Believe me, your fans would miss you. It's nice to think. Who do you main in Smash Brothers? I don't really play that game too much. I only played the very first one they ever made. I don't know that it's necessarily getting better, but like there's good stuff in my life. Like I say, I'm very happy about my relationship. I'm making money and you know, trying to grow the channel. So there's positives. There's positives. Yeah, I do try to talk to people when I'm low, so don't worry. I talk to my doctor, and I talk to, like, family and friends if I need to. As this channel gets more popular, it's skewing younger and younger. It is. The comment section is changing, as of the live chats. As the oldest person here, it's been very noticeable for me. Well, hopefully it's not a bad thing. You know, I work with much younger people for the most part, and I'll be honest, they amuse me. They keep me young. Who's my favorite character in The Boys? Probably Huey. Oh, Watchful and Harmonious beat you! I keep seeing a splash of red would be awesome. I'm thinking it's possible. 49? See, good. I've got a wide variety of ages of people that are watching my content. I love hearing that. I love it. You know, I one of the big things I think of within comics is that they really are for just about everybody. I mean, they can be about anything. Comics are so versatile. It's a medium, and I think that like it's fantastic to see that I've got viewers that are way younger than me and some viewers that are even a little older than me. I love it. It means a lot. I'm glad I've got some dudes in my 40s. I've got some 30s, got some 20s. I love it. Yeah. There's plenty creatively that like people can share within, like, you know, a pretty broad range of ages. Now, when there's teenagers, I'll be honest, I have a harder time connecting with them. Like, you know, you can't connect with them on an adult level per se, but that's okay. There's teenagers can be amusing too. Oh, good. I went past an hour. I didn't want to be too short, even though this was a simpler drawing than some of the others that I've done in the past. It's good to see. Let's see. You know, I've been planning on making a comic book for myself so that everyone can see what I really did, but who knew that trying to draw what you want to get is very hard to do? Yeah, it is. It's work. It's fun work, but it's work. The Hellraiser comics, I should check them out. Interesting. Favorite horror character design? Maybe Freddy Krueger. I think that he's got a pretty interesting, grimy, scary aesthetic. What's the difference between Howard Chaykin's self-insert and Greg Weich's self-insert? I don't know. You tell me. I guess it's all in the execution, you know? Self-insert isn't necessarily a problem. It still has to be compelling. People like the blood spatter? Good. My wife doesn't watch movies. Got her to watch Scream, though, and she actually liked it. Yeah, Scream is a pretty solid movie. I like it quite a bit. It's too bad we lost Wes Craven kind of early, you know. He had more good movies in him. We should still have him. Let's see. I don't even remember watching Scream. Well, it's pretty good. I remember the crush. At least I think I do. I think I do. No, I don't think I want to see a remake of Scream. I've seen Jacob's Ladder. That is a really freaky movie. Some disturbing imagery with a haunting story. You know what's sort of an underrated horror movie is Angel Heart. It's sort of like a post-war detective story, but like it seems to have to do with like voodoo and the occult, and Mickey Rourke's character keeps getting like closer and closer. And I won't spoil it for anyone who hasn't seen it, but it's got a pretty amazing like twist towards the end that makes it even darker. Yeah, Angel Heart was good. Oh yeah, okay, cool. People talking about that. Yeah, just all of a sudden sort of came to me as sort of an underrated. I would call it horror. It's yeah, it's a strange sort of hybrid like movie of like, you know, detective and like sort of like erotic thriller, but like ultimately I would say it's like horror, mostly because of like where it goes for the main character. Yeah, I saw Joker. Great De Niro role. It was. He doesn't have a huge role in it really, but he does a great job with it. Probably a tough one for an actor to pull off. I don't know how you decide like how you're gonna play that. as like a human being. Or who is that person? I don't know. Kung Fu movie in the barrio. Don't think it has any of those things in it, no. If there's a Stan Lee biopic, who would you want him to be played by? Huh. I don't know. That's an interesting question. Who would do a good job as Stan Lee? I mean, I think that it's probably a role that, you know, you just require prosthetics and stuff. I guess the first thing you'd need to determine is, like, what age does the majority of the story take place in? Like, you know, how old is Stan for the majority? And I think you'd have to set it, like, in the 60s. Stan in the 60s, because that's when he sort of accomplished the most and became Stan Lee. Now, Robert Downey Jr. is too old. You need somebody younger. You need somebody that's, like, basically in their 40s to play Stan in the 60s. You need somebody like that. Robert Pattinson, he's a little too young. You need someone my age. You need me, true believer. Hello, everybody. This is Stan Lee. I'm being played by Mr. Tropes in this movie, and it's a real privilege and an honor. There you go. It's me. I gotta play Stan Lee in a movie. Paul Rudd and Christian Bale, I think, are too old. So is Bryan Cranston. I sincerely think you need somebody a little younger to play it. Now, they could all do a great job. They definitely could. But I think that, like, most of the story has to take place when the character is younger. Vin Diesel in white paint with a red dot on his forehead. Now that's the perfect Stan Lee. Yeah, we talked about the Bloodshot trailer earlier. The Rock. Finally, The Rock has come back to play Stan Lee. I can't say it without laughing. I can't do a good impression. It's too funny to me. You know who could play Jack Kirby older is somebody like Ray Wise. I think he just sort of looks like him or something. But there's probably plenty of guys that could do that. I think that, like, honestly, Jack Kirby would possibly have the more interesting life story. Just because he did serve in Europe during World War II. And I think that's pretty interesting to go there, come back, and then sort of fight for your creator's, like, rights, you know, to... I think that could be a really interesting biography. Is Jack Kirby? So I think I'll call this drawing right here. I think that's what we got. Like, for what it's worth, like I was trying to put a reflection in the knife, and I was trying to make it basically look like Sydney, but like with only an eye. It's kind of hard to get that across. But yeah, so that's what I ended up with, and then I just threw the blood splatter effect behind to just sort of add some contrast and offset it. But I kind of like how it came out, so I appreciate everybody being here for me to do that with. Definitely some fun questions as well. Grateful for that. So tomorrow I should be on a little bit earlier. Let's just take a quick look at what the prompt is for tomorrow. Yeah, I think that this one ended up like sort of like stealth becoming my favorite of what we've done so far. So tomorrow's prompt is, let's see, oh, that's day 23 already. Ancient. Oh, there's plenty of old horror movie characters. Ancient. Gotta think, like, who's ancient? Wishmaster, of course, is the one that everybody really wants to see, is Wishmaster. But I don't know if I'll go that direction yet. Cthulhu, maybe. Has Cthulhu ever been in a movie? Has there ever been a Lovecraft movie with, like, Cthulhu? The Mummy. Maybe I should, because I tried to draw the Mummy, like, for an earlier one, and I really, like, it was one of the ones I did when I was, like, I was, like, the most tired that I've been since I've been doing these, and it's my least favorite overall result. It's like, I sort of got where I was going, but I was so exhausted, I just couldn't make it work. That one was not my favorite, so I've sort of already attempted the Mummy. It didn't meet with great results. Yawning, tired, but oh, I'm glad I just looked there, because I just found the comic that I was looking for to read. It was under the drawing. This is the one I'm reading right now, Harrow County. I don't know if anybody else has read it, but that's pretty good. I'm reading Harrow County, My Hero Academia, and Rick and Morty versus Dungeons and Dragons. Those are the 3 books that I'm reading right now, and tomorrow I got to pick up something at the comic shop. Mark Maron for Stan Lee. Brian, that is a really clever casting call. Now, that's a little older than I was thinking, but there's something about Mark Maron that tells me he could probably pull off the look of Stan Lee. Wow. I really like that suggestion quite a bit. And I don't know, he's sort of more of a grump than Stan Lee, who's like kind of exuberant, but maybe there's something there. Draw the Mummy from the Brendan Fraser movie? Maybe. Definitely got to think about it. Like, a lot of people suggesting a version of the Mummy for Ancient, and I get it. But I haven't done Dracula. Dracula's ancient. Bubba Hotep, sure. There's a lot of different ways I could go there. So I got to give this some thought. But you know what? Ultimately, I sincerely make these decisions last minute because I don't want to pre-plan too much. The goal of Inktober is to not pre-plan and to just focus on inking techniques. And I used a few different sort of feathering techniques today and a few like sort of parallel line techniques to indicate shadow. Creature from the Black Lagoon. I love that character design. The entire Monster Squad. These are great suggestions, folks. I'm going to take off. I will be back tomorrow afternoon. I'm looking forward to it. Until then, keep reading comics. And like I usually end these live streams, bye.